Okay, cool. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming here. This will be about 1 hour webinar displaying some of the things that we do in Sentiment and explaining what data we collect and how you can use the data both on our website and also in our closed beta if you're part of it to do some analysis of crypto projects. So let's get started first with a short recap of what we try to do in Sentiment. So we collect data from various sources and we provide this data to analysts, people that are interested in analyzing crypto projects so that they can get some insights about what's going on in there, and the idea is this data to be objective and to be aggregated across many places so that the data is valuable for people that are interested. Um, so I would say that there are several, I think three or four, actually four types of data that we collect. First, it's purely technical data around price and volume. This is something that you've seen in many other places, like TradingView and in technical analysis. We also collect on-chain data by parsing the blockchain. Right now, we parse the Ethereum blockchain because most of the projects are based on that. And we provide some data feeds based on this blockchain data. We also collect social data from social channels like Twitter, Reddit, Telegram, and other places, which we use for sentiment analysis and also for analyzing what is the hype around different projects and all this. And also we have other data sources, some arbitrary data sources like GitHub, from which we collect development activity. And also, for example, some other feeds like recently we integrated with the Golem status network, where we're tracking basically what's going on around their network. So the idea is that when you combine all these sources together, you get a much better understanding of what's going on out there in a kind of a objective way, not just reading FUD on some news website or something like this. And generally, the idea is people to understand better what is going on in the crypto world. So in that sense, we can say that it's kind of a educational purpose, but also, we are pretty sure that you can use this knowledge to also do trading and make profits out of them. Okay, so let's start with what we have right now on the website as a kind of a free data feeds that we provide to everyone that comes to our website. So right now, when you go on sentiment.net, in order to access our free feeds, you need to click in the upper right corner here, this little link. We are actually in the process of redesigning the website, so this will be much more visible in the new design. So when you click on SANbase, you're going to open the so-called SANbase project, where we put data feeds that are free right now for everyone to access. And we can say that here you have a highly crunched, highly optimized for consumption data for end users that is kind of easy to digest. So we're really trying hard to make the user experience here to be easy so that people can easily navigate around the project. So here you can see we split the project into two buckets. One are the ERC20 tokens. These are all based on the Ethereum blockchain, different ICOs that was done there. We have quite a bit of them, I think over maybe 300, and we're trying to update this database every day with new and new tokens. And the other bucket is currencies that you can change here on the top, that are non-ERC20 projects. These are basically other blockchains, like the Ethereum itself, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, all these blockchains that are, blockchain projects. Now, the difference is that for the ERC20 projects, we have a lot of data that is coming from the Ethereum blockchain that we parse, so that we have much more columns here, as you can see. While for currencies, mainly we have technical data like price and volume, and also the development activity. So how you can use this? So here, for example, let's take the ERC20 projects. One thing that you can easily do on the screen is, for example, sort the projects by development activity. And here you have the average development activity for the last 30 days. And this way you can get an idea of which are the projects that are most active on GitHub. Now, you may ask, there are other websites that are doing development activity, but we developed this a kind of a new approach for measuring this. Instead of just counting commits, which could be quite problematic, especially if you fork a project. Like if I take Bitcoin, the Bitcoin code base, and I fork the source code and create, let's say, Bitcoin Cash, which is what happened. I basically inherit all the commits of Bitcoin, but this is not really correct. Like the dev activity of Bitcoin Cash should not involve any of the dev activity of Bitcoin. But we developed this approach to measure the development activity in a way that is free of this problem. You can actually read more on our Medium. So we wrote an article about how we track GitHub activity and what is our approach. So if you're interested into this, just go to our Medium webpage and read more about it. You will learn how actually we do it. Okay. So here we are on the screen, and you sort the project by dev activity. And now, you can get an idea of which are the projects with highest development activity. And what is more interesting is that, you see this number, like 200. And if you go to, let's say, currencies and sort here, you see, Ethereum is actually quite heavily developed, with this 600. We can say that, Ethereum is probably gets three times more development attention than status, because status is like 200. You can do relative analysis like this, and you can see which are the projects that are mostly developed. And here the idea is that potentially projects with higher development activity will be shipping more features, will have better adoption across developers, and potentially could be more successful. So, nice way to rank projects and figure out which might be, more valuable in that sense. Something else that you can do, again, in a similar fashion, is to sort by daily active addresses. Now, here we have the 30-day average of the daily active addresses for the transactions that being done on chain. So the way we measure this is that we look at all the token transfers on the blockchain, and we look at how many unique addresses participated every day in some kind of exchange, and then we get this number. So if you access, for example, Tron, here I'll jump a little bit forward, and I click on the daily active addresses metric, you're going to see that actually there's been a huge spike in daily active addresses in the recent days for Tron. I'm not sure what is exactly the reason for this. I think they're doing some kind of an airdrop or something like this, so maybe that's the case. But again, this is an indication that something is going on. So if you look at this metric, you might get some interesting insight. Now you can see also that EOS also has quite high daily active addresses, and basically you can start some research based on this. You can see potentially, I think Gifto is a kind of a fairly new project that is doing an airdrop right now, so this is why they have such high amount of daily active addresses. But generally, this could be an indication that something is going on. Maybe there is big hype for this project, or something that you might want to pay attention to. And also the other potential uses of this is that if you want to analyze some token economy of a given token, figure out, whether it's more widely used. Like this could be a kind of a proxy for the amount of users that are using this token. So, stuff like that. And another thing that you can do here is, again, using the sorting features to sort by the Ethereum spent of a given project. And this metric is actually how it's measured. We have the team wallets for many of these projects where they collected the funds from their ICOs, and we track the outgoing transactions for them. So for this particular column, we take the total amount of Ethereum that went out of their team wallet for the last 30 days. And how you can use this? Well, for example, let's take Status. So Status spent 6,000 Ethereum in the last 30 days. Actually, there have been, you can see here, there have been 2 transactions, each 3,000 Ethereum. One was 3 days ago and one was 10 days ago. So here you can see their team wallet that we have in our database with a total balance of 260,000 Ethereum at the moment. And you can start investigation from here. Like, let's say, okay, let's try to figure out what happened with these tokens. So, let's take the more recent one that was 3 days ago. We click here and we go to Etherscan and we see the transaction here. So we see that there was a transfer of 3,000 Ether from this address to some other address. So now we can follow the trail. We see that this went to some other wallet that transferred the Ethereum out of it somewhere else. And then these funds also were transferred somewhere else. And finally, we see that they went to Bitfinex wallet. So basically, they ended up on an exchange. So most probably they were sold, and here we can speculate that Status sold 3,000 Ethereum, maybe to fund their development or for something else. Now let's go back and see the other transaction that was like 10 days ago. So we can click here. We see again 3,000 Ethereum. They were transferred to some other address, which transferred them to. Actually, I think here we need to look at the internal transactions. Yeah, here is the 3,000 Ethereum. And we see that actually this wallet has quite a bit of Ethereum in it. Maybe it didn't end up on an exchange. So maybe it was a transaction done over the counter or something like this. But here's how you can use this feature to analyze when projects are spending and how they're spending and what are they doing with their money. So this is what you can do here. Again, if you go to currencies, you can do the same thing with def activity in this particular case. Unfortunately, we don't have the on-chain data for these projects. We'll be adding them later when we see there is interest from the community. Okay, let's go back and see what else we can do here on this screen. So let's jump in and look at the project details page of some projects. Let's say EOS. So here we have a price chart, pretty standard thing. We can switch between price in dollars and Bitcoin. Many people prefer to look at the Bitcoin price. We can also overlay the Ethereum price. This is kind of interesting for the ERC20 projects. And also at the bottom, we have quite a bit of data feeds that you can overlay. Now, probably you're familiar with standard stuff like market capitalization, trading volume. So this is the volume that's being traded on exchanges. Again, pretty standard stuff. You can see that on CoinMarketCap too. And here we have also GitHub activity. You can see how the GitHub activity of EOS progressed over time. And you can see there were some peaks. Actually, it's very interesting to see how the price is also following the development activity. In this particular case, also we have this metric called burn rate, which has nothing to do with burning tokens. The idea is that this metric is going to spike when there are big amount of tokens that been staying still for a while and they've been transferred somewhere. So imagine you have, for example, some advisor that got paid at the beginning of the ICO, and his tokens has been staying in his wallet from the beginning of the ICO, and then the price jumps and maybe he decides to move the tokens, and then at this time this metric is going to spike because these tokens have been sitting for like several months and now they move and we see this metric spiking. So this might be interesting for doing some analysis that something is going on. Usually a spike in burn rate is also followed by a spike in transaction volume, although this is not always the case. Here, transaction volume is actually not the volume that has been traded on exchanges. This is the volume that has been exchanged on chain. So in order to calculate this, we parse the Ethereum blockchain, we look at all the EOS transfers on the chain, and we aggregate this across time. So you see that, for example, on 7th of December, they've been 250 million EOS tokens that's been transacted on chain. So that might be an indication that comparing the transaction volume of different projects might be an indication that this token is being used, or a spike could indicate that there is some hype going on or something like that. I can actually yeah, I'm wondering if I can show you an example for this on Binance. Let me check. I think on the 7th of December, so this spike in the transaction volume, no, it's not the same. Yeah, okay, never mind. Let's move on. I was thinking about a particular event that happened, but yeah, this is not the case. And daily active addresses. So I already talked about this. So this is the number of unique Ethereum addresses that has been transferring EOS tokens between them for every day. So you can see that we see quite a lot of them. And actually, here is this interesting event that I've been talking about for Binance. If you go here and click daily active addresses, you see the spike here, 36,000 unique addresses. Binance actually ran a voting at this time, and this is why so many addresses has been involved, because in order people to vote, they had to do some transfer on chain. So this is why there is this spike here. So this could be again an indication that something interesting is going on there. And we also have like Twitter feed, with amount of followers that the given project is getting. And this sentiment thing right now, it's not working. This is something that's in work in progress. That might be our first data feed that will require you to have Sun tokens in order to see that. So you need to log in here with MetaMask, and we are going to check how many Sun tokens you have in your wallet. And then only if you have a certain amount of tokens, you'll be able to see this metric. And the last one is the Ethereum spent over time. So this is a statistic that shows you how much Ethereum has been going out of the team wallet over time. And for EOS, it's particularly interesting because they've been running their ICO for quite a while. So they accumulate a lot of Ethereum and then they transfer it out of their team wallet. And you can see that actually in the recent weeks and months, they've been accumulating quite a lot of Ethereum has been going towards them. And you can see the statistical also for other projects. Let's take Status. I think they've been spending some Ethereum over time. Now you can see that in August they spent 15,000. Then in October again 15,000, and recently they spent 2 times 3,000, and they spent 2,000 around middle of February. So that could be interesting to analyze how these projects are spending. Okay, apart from all these time series data, you can also see some general info about the projects, like their market capitalization, their current price, their trading volume, how many tokens are in circulation, some links to their web pages and GitHub profiles and all that. Also, see their team wallets and analyze their transactions, their outgoing transactions. So I think this is pretty much a good recap of what's going on here on SANbase around the free data feeds that we have. Let me see if I missed anything. So for currencies, there are much less over time series that you can see. The most interesting one is the def activity that you can see. That could be actually quite interesting for some projects. You can see, that Leaky is actually having quite big def activity, which is something that might be surprising to a lot of people. Cardano is doing pretty good job in their development. Steam is also quite active. Basically, seeing which projects are accumulating def activity and who are not. Okay, any questions so